Kansas City is considering doing away with transit fares citywide, and if that happens, we'll be the first larger metropolitan city in the U.S. with free public transit across the board. As our Abigail James reports, city leaders hope to make it happen.
David Parker depends on the bus getting him where he needs to go on a daily basis.
To church, to work, to recreation, whatever, I'm Walmart, whatever I'm doing.
But not having to pay to ride, he says, would help him in the long run.
But it sure buy a lot more groceries. You can spend more on kids. Extra $50, everybody could use an extra $50 a month. I don't care how rich you are.
Though $50 per month may not sound like much, the Kansas City Transportation Authority President and CEO Robbie Mackinnon says it makes a difference for low-income residents of Kansas City. And if you're in a family buying passes for yourself and your relatives, it adds up.
At the end of the day, you're talking about over the year, that's a few $1,000.
But saving money isn't the only thing Mackinnon sees as an advantage. He says having that money go elsewhere will spur economic growth.
It's going to go right back into the local economy, small business. It's going to generate sales tax, not only for the city, but for the state, of which we get a piece of.
Other small agencies across the country have zeroed out fares, such as Corvallis, Oregon, where Oregon State is. Then there are places like Portland, who began giving free rides, but then went back to having fares. According to Mackinnon, if Kansas City moves towards this approach, we would be the biggest agency in the country right now providing free fares.
This would significantly be, for a mid-sized system, we would be unique.
Mackinnon says right now the fare boxes generate $8 million a year. And despite getting rid of that money, he believes there's a way to cover fareless operating costs.
The amount of money we get from the fare box is less than 9% of our total budget. If we can't find that small amount of money between a $105 million budget and a $1.7 billion city budget, then what am I doing here?
We have to commit to.
Mayor Quentin Lucas is also on board with the idea of zeroing out fares entirely, though right now where they'll make up for that $8 million of revenue is still being discussed. In a statement from the mayor's office, they said in part, "We are continuing to actively pursue no-fare transit and are optimistic about its outcome. In conversations with citizens, council members, and civic groups, we've received widespread support for the initiative." So the conversation now turns to how to best secure funding for that project. Abigail James, KCTV5 News.
The goal is to have no-fare transit in place by the beginning of the year. We also asked Mackinnon if they're worried about an overflow of people taking the buses if there are no more fares. But he says right now they can absorb a 25 to 30% increase without having to change a thing.